Did you know that right now, beneath the streets of Manhattan, over 100 forgotten rivers are still flowing, and nobody above them has any idea? Or that the most famous financial street in the world is named after a literal wall built by enslaved people in 1653? You may know New York City is expensive, but you probably don't know a single parking spot there once sold for $750,000, which is more than a house in almost every state. These sound fake? They're not. Today, you'll discover 21 verified, mind-blowing facts about New York that will completely change how you see this city, this state, and everything hiding beneath its surface. And near the end, we'll uncover what was hidden inside the Brooklyn Bridge for over a century, something so secret, city workers stumbled onto it by accident, and what they found was stamped with the words, "For use only after enemy attack." Fact 21. Times Square was called something completely different until 1904. Most people assume Times Square has always been Times Square, but until 1904, it was called Longacre Square, named after London's Longacre Horse and Carriage District. When New York Times publisher Adolph Oakes built his new headquarters there, he personally lobbied Mayor George B. McClellan Jr. to rename the area after his newspaper. It became official on April 8, 1904. Here's the twist though, the Times actually outgrew that building and moved away by 1913, but the name stuck forever. And that first New Year's Eve celebration? It happened in 1904, but the famous ball drop didn't start until December 31st, 1907. Fact 20. 4 of NYC's 5 boroughs are on islands. Here's a geographic fact that catches almost everyone off guard. Manhattan is an island, Staten Island, obviously an island, but Brooklyn and Queens? They sit on the western tip of Long Island, the longest and largest island in the contiguous United States, at 118 miles long. That means the Bronx is the only borough that actually touches the US mainland. The city also includes dozens of smaller islands, including Roosevelt Island, Governor's Island, City Island, Liberty Island, and Ellis Island. Fact 19. Honking your horn in NYC is technically illegal. If you've ever been to Manhattan, you know the soundtrack. Horns blasting non-stop. A friend of mine who moved there a few years ago told me the honking was the first thing he noticed and the last thing he got used to. But here's the wild part. Honking for anything other than signaling imminent danger has been illegal for decades under NYC Administrative Code Section 24-237. The fine starts at $350. The city's even deployed noise cameras that capture license plates when detecting sounds above 85 decibels, with penalties up to $2,500. Between 2010 and 2015, the city received nearly 6,000 horn complaints but issued only 113 summonses. Fact 18. Staten Island's deer population exploded by 3,000%. A 6-year wildlife survey revealed something extraordinary. Staten Island's white-tailed deer population surged from just 24 individuals to roughly 763, a more than 3,000% increase. Meanwhile, eastern coyotes, which are actually coyote-wolf hybrids called coy wolves that grow up to 40% larger than western coyotes, now roam all 5 boroughs, including Central Park. And NYC hosts what's believed to be the largest urban population of peregrine falcons in the world, nesting on skyscrapers and diving after pigeons at speeds that can approach 200 miles per hour. Fact 17. Manhattan's entire street grid was designed by a 22-year-old. The Commissioner's Plan of 1811 laid out 12 avenues and 155 numbered cross streets. It's been called the single most important document in New York City's development. The chief surveyor was John Randall Jr., who was just 20 years old when he began mapping the island in 1808. The commissioners chose a grid because straight-sided and right-angled houses are the most cheap to build and the most convenient to live in. But few realized their original plan included almost no parks. They believed waterfront access made green space unnecessary. That oversight was corrected decades later with Central Park. Fact 16. NYC was America's first capital. Before Washington, D.C. existed, New York City served as the first capital of the United States from 1785 to 1790. George Washington was inaugurated on April 30, 1789, on the balcony of Federal Hall at 26 Wall Street. The first Congress met there. The first Supreme Court sat there. The Bill of Rights was drafted and passed there. The capital moved to Philadelphia in December 1790 as part of Alexander Hamilton's famous dinner table bargain. where Hamilton agreed to relocate the capital southward in exchange for Jefferson and Madison supporting federal assumption of state debts. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this journey through New York's wildest secrets, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more hidden facts from across America coming your way. Fact 15. Manhattan runs on the world's largest steam system. Beneath Manhattan streets, 105 miles of steam pipes deliver heat and cooling to approximately 1,500 buildings, including the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, the United Nations, and Rockefeller Center. Operated by Con Edison, it's the world's largest commercial steam system and has run continuously since March 3, 1882. The steam arrives at 450 to 475 degrees Fahrenheit. Those iconic orange and white sidewalk stacks you see in every movie set in New York? They're venting steam from this very system. Fact 14. About 800 languages are spoken across NYC. The Endangered Language Alliance estimates roughly 800 language varieties across all of New York City. Queens alone has over 160, making it the world's most linguistically diverse urban area. Half of all New Yorkers speak a language other than English at home. Over 36% of residents, around 3 million people, were born outside the United States. In Queens, roughly 48% of residents are foreign-born. There's no place on Earth with more languages per square mile. Fact 13. Central Park is bigger than the entire country of Monaco. Central Park spans 843 acres. The sovereign nation of Monaco, around 512 acres. That makes the park approximately 1.64 times larger than an entire country, and roughly 7 times larger than Vatican City. As the Central Park Conservancy notes, the park draws an estimated 42 million visitors annually, more than the entire population of Canada. It contains 58 miles of paths, 42 bridges and arches, and around 18,000 trees. A city park that dwarfs a nation. Fact 12. Nathan's famous hot dog contest origin story is completely made up. The beloved tale goes like this. On July 4, 1916, 4 immigrants held a hot dog eating contest to prove who was the most patriotic. Wonderful story, entirely fabricated. It was invented in the 1970s by promoter Mortimer "Morty" Matz as a marketing ploy. The first documented competition was July 4, 1972, when Jason Schechter won by eating 14 hot dogs. The event became legendary when Takeru Kobayashi ate 50 in 2001, nearly doubling the previous record of 25. The Nathan's contest record stands at 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes, set by Joey Chestnut in 2021, though Chestnut later ate 83 at a separate Netflix event in September 2024. Nathan still references 1916 in official materials to this day. Fact 11. A pizza slice and a subway ride cost the same for 60 years. The pizza principle, first identified by Eric M. Bram and reported in the New York Times in 1980, tracked an uncanny correlation between the price of a plain cheese slice and a subway fare. In 1960, both cost about 15 cents. In 2003, both hit $2. In 2015, both reached $2.75. Columbia statistician Jared Lander confirmed the correlation held with a tight confidence interval as late as 2014. But as of 2026, the principle is dead. Subway fare sits at $3. The average pizza slice is approaching $4. Post-COVID inflation in ingredients and rent broke a 6-decade economic pattern. Fact 10. More rats than people in NYC is actually false. You've heard the claim that there are more rats than people in New York City. Most people assumed it's true. It's not. In 2014, Columbia PhD student Jonathan Auerbach published a study in the Royal Statistical Society Significance magazine estimating about 2 million rats. In 2023, pest control firm MMPC updated the estimate to approximately 3 million. Still staggering, but that's roughly 1 rat per 2.8 people, not 1 to 1. The good news, NYC's mandatory trash containerization program has driven rat sightings down over 20% through late 2025, with 12 consecutive months of decline. The city even appointed its first ever rat czar, Kathleen Karate, in April 2023. Fact 9. Wall Street is named after a literal wall built by enslaved people. In 1653, Director General Peter Stuyvesant ordered a wooden palisade wall built across Lower Manhattan to defend Dutch New Amsterdam against English colonists. The wall was constructed of earth and 15-foot timber planks built with slave labor from the Dutch West India Company. The wall was dismantled in 1699 after the city had expanded well beyond it. The street that ran alongside it kept the name. Today, Wall Street moves trillions of dollars on ground where enslaved people once laid timber. Fact 8. NYC real estate prices defy all logic. In January 2019, hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin paid $238 million for a penthouse at 220 Central Park South, the most expensive home ever sold in the United States. He reportedly called it a place to stay when he's in town. But here's what bends the mind. A single parking spot at the same building sold for $750,000. Automated spots in luxury buildings sell for up to nearly $600,000. The average deeded parking space in a new Manhattan development costs $300,000 to $400,000, which is roughly the median U.S. home price. Fact 7. The Dutch gave up Manhattan for a tiny Nutmeg island. The 1667 Treaty of Breda ended the Second Anglo-Dutch War. England kept New Amsterdam, seized without a shot in 1664, and renamed New York after the Duke of York. The Dutch chose to keep Run Island, a tiny speck in Indonesia's Banda Islands, because its nutmeg monopoly was far more valuable. At the time, nutmeg sold for more than its weight in gold. I remember reading about this years ago and thinking there's no way it's real. They even briefly recaptured New York in 1673, renaming it New Orange, but returned it the following year. Manhattan for nutmeg, one of history's most lopsided trades in hindsight. Fact 6. Over 100 buried rivers flow beneath NYC's streets. Before Europeans arrived, Manhattan, called Manhattana by the Lenape, had over 570 hills, 60-plus miles of streams, and more than 20 ponds. Today, Sergei Kadinsky of the NYC Parks Department has documented 101 forgotten waterways in his book, Hidden Waters of New York City. The most famous is Moneta Brook, which still seeps into basements in Greenwich Village. My cousin actually lives in the village and swears her building's basement gets damp every spring from what she's convinced is Moneta Brook. And the city is currently spending over $130 million to daylight Tibbetts Brook in the Bronx, literally unearthing a buried stream to reduce flooding. An entire hidden water system pulses beneath the concrete. Fact 5. NYC's drinking water travels 125 miles by gravity and is never filtered. According to the NYC Department of Environmental Protection, the city delivers 1.1 billion gallons of drinking water every single day to 9.5 million people from 19 reservoirs across 3 watershed systems spanning roughly 2,000 square miles. That water travels up to 125 miles almost entirely by gravity. 90% of it is never filtered, treated instead with chlorine, UV light, fluoride, and corrosion control additives. If the city had to build a filtration plant, the estimated cost would be more than $10 billion to construct and upwards of $100 million per year to operate. Instead, NYC has invested over $1 billion in watershed protection to maintain its filtration waiver. Fact 4. The world's longest tunnel is under New York, and it's leaking 35 million gallons a day. The Delaware Aqueduct stretches 85 miles, runs 13.5 feet wide, and sits buried up to roughly 2,500 feet underground. It is the longest tunnel of any kind on Earth. Built between 1939 and 1945, it carries roughly half of NYC's daily water supply, about 600 million gallons. But since the late 1980s, it has been leaking 35 million gallons every single day. A $2 billion repair project launched its final phase in late September 2024, involving a 2.5-mile bypass tunnel 600 feet beneath the Hudson River, the first new tunnel under the Hudson since the Lincoln Tunnel's South Tube in 1957. Fact 3. NYC once shot mail through underground tubes at 35 miles per hour. From 1897 to 1953, a 27-mile network of underground pneumatic tubes connected 23 post offices across Manhattan and Brooklyn, launching 2-foot mail canisters at 30 to 35 miles per hour. At peak capacity, the system handled 95,000 letters per day, roughly 30% of all mail in the city. Travel time from Grand Central to the main post office, 4 minutes. The inaugural canister, launched on October 7, 1897, contained a Bible wrapped in an American flag and the Constitution. The workers who loaded the tubes were nicknamed Rocketeers. And according to historical accounts, someone once sent a cat through the system. It survived. Fact 2. Humpback whales returned to New York City, from 5 to over 470. In 2011, citizen science group Gotham Whale recorded just 5 humpback whales in New York City's waters. By 2025, their catalog had grown to over 400 unique individuals. Captain Frank DeSantis of the American Princess whale-watching boat puts the odds of spotting one on fall tours at 97%. The comeback is driven by the Clean Water Act, improved fish populations, and what scientists call the cleanest harbor in 100 years. Humpback whales and bottlenose dolphins have been spotted within sight of the Statue of Liberty, and critically endangered North Atlantic right whales have been documented in the wider New York Bight. Whales swimming past the skyline of the most famous city on Earth. Fact 1. The Brooklyn Bridge hides champagne vaults and a Cold War nuclear bunker. Inside the Brooklyn Bridge's massive granite anchorages, cavernous vaults were rented as wine and champagne cellars starting in 1876, 7 years before the bridge even opened to the public, generating income to offset the $15 million construction cost. Tenants stored champagne Pol Roger in chambers nicknamed the Blue Grotto. But here's where it gets truly unbelievable. In March 2006, city inspectors performing a routine check discovered a completely separate vault containing a fully stocked Cold War fallout shelter. Inside, they found 352,000 sealed civil defense survival crackers, reportedly still edible, along with water drums labeled as doubling as commodes, medical supplies, and paper blankets in boxes stamped with the words, "For use only after enemy attack." Supply boxes were dated 1957 and 1962, the years of Sputnik and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Champagne and doomsday rations sealed together inside one of the most walked-over landmarks in the world. When I first walked across the Brooklyn Bridge, I had no idea what was hidden right beneath my feet. That is New York. New York alone could probably fill an entire series with unusual facts and hidden stories. If you like this deep dive, support the channel with a like and subscribe so we can keep uncovering more from across the country. There are plenty of other videos here waiting for you to explore.